Welcome back everybody to the Wandering Samurai Study, in which we review and analyze every single act told in Rurouni Kenshin, and today's act is Act 32, Bonus, Yahiko's Battle, Part 2. So as the title suggests, this is actually Part 2 of a 3-part little story that we're getting at the beginning of Volume 5 now of Rurouni Kenshin, and it's a little side story in which Yahiko is learning to fend for himself and become a swordsman in his own way, rather than always constantly allowing everyone else around him to save the day. It's Yahiko's turn to shine in this little mini arc where life is kind of dull until the next big villain comes into the fold. My favorite joke here is when Yahiko tries to build this machine to learn how or practice fighting multiple enemies at once, and Sanosuke and Kaoru both shoot him down. But Kaoru's suggestion for Yahiko on how to fight multiple enemies at once is to master the Hiten Mitsurugi style of swordsmanship, knowing full well that that wasn't going to happen. So that's kind of where we are right now. It's a little bit of lighthearted fun, and we'll get into the chapter summary and continue from there. Yahiko jumps into battle. The Kamiya Kashin's teachings are proving useful, until they don't. Yahiko was able to take down one guy easily, but the rest of the group ambushed him into defeat. Kenshin, Kaoru, and Sanosuke watched from a distance but never got involved. Tsubame managed to pull the group's leader off by giving him the key mold. A wounded Yahiko mentions that the key takes about a day to make from the key mold, so he has between now and that time to prepare for his rematch. The following day at the dojo, Yahiko makes a machine to practice fighting multiple enemies, but Sanosuke and Kaoru shoot the machine down as ineffective. Yahiko turns to Kenshin for guidance on fighting multiple enemies, and Kenshin teaches him a way to turn a one versus many fight into a one-on-one fight. Kenshin reminds Yahiko that the Kamiya Kashin is a sword to protect people. Losing a fight means not only losing his own life, but the person he's trying to protect. With this, Yahiko's warrior spirit is ignited as he prepares for his rematch. So Yahiko loses his first match against a group of enemies, but within just a couple of panels, we actually just learn exactly why this story exists, and it is for the purpose of growing Yahiko. Not so much to tell a side story of how things are when things are a little bit dull, but to grow and flesh out Yahiko and show us what his swordsmanship is cultivating into, or how he's growing into a swordsman when things aren't at the centerfold of Kenshin. And it's also to kind of just show us that in the background, he is growing as a person, even though we don't get to see him do much because the story is so focused on Kenshin being the hero. So when Yahiko loses his first match, we learn exactly what it is, because Kenshin decides that he's not going to get involved, and Sanosuke and Kaoru actually give him a little bit of grief over the decision, but it was ultimately so that Yahiko can learn how to swim. But after his defeat, I really love the way Yahiko kind of just calls this situation what it is. Wounded and defeated, on the way home, Yahiko decides that he is going to be the one that handles this situation, because he can't really go to anybody else. If he were to go to the police, Tsubame would get in trouble, as she is in association with these thugs that are trying to break into the Akabeko, and she infiltrated the staff so that they could do the very thing. And also, he doesn't want to go to Kenshin because these men are beneath Kenshin. Kenshin could easily just wipe them out, but it's Yahiko's turn to kind of step up and be a man in his own way. Yahiko is the perfect fit for this situation. Sanosuke wouldn't care enough. Kaoru would tell him that he needs to do it because it's kind of his problem. It's the one, it knocked on his doorstep, and Kenshin would probably help him if he really asked for it. But and you know what, the whole group does help in their own way, but without getting super involved, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. The following day at the dojo, Yahiko comes up with this contraption that it kind of just has like a bunch of little wooden planks hanging so that they serve as multiple enemies, and he's supposed to kind dodge and learn how to fight, maneuvering these things that are going to hit him. In the anime, we actually get to see this machine in work, but in the manga, it's quickly shot down before he even uses it. And I think that the reason why we don't actually get to see it being used is because it would be a little bit cumbersome to kind of draw that type of movement in for it to ultimately be ineffective in the story. So quickly, Sanosuke and Kaoru both shoot down the machine as ineffective, and even though Sanosuke doesn't really offer a whole bunch of insight, Kaoru tells him why it wouldn't be effective against multiple enemies, and it essentially just boils down to the nuance of swordsmanship, that it's not gonna just go one way. Yahiko can learn how to maneuver with this one direction battle, but when fighting multiple enemies, they're going to be coming at you from different angles and different positions, so it's not a method that's really going to help him. And then that's when we got the learn the Hiten Mitsurugi joke, which was super funny. I thought it was fantastic. But with that, he goes and asks Kenshin what it is that he needs to do. And I think that Kenshin's offerance of guidance to Yahiko is fantastic, because it hypes up Yahiko by the end of the chapter, but it also kind of just hypes me up just thinking about it, because I'm excited for him. Essentially what Kenshin does is he tells him that he's not going to teach him the Hiten Mitsurugi, and he's not going to teach him the art of killing, because that is off the table. But what he does is he offers Yahiko an attack strategy that was utilized during the Bakumatsu. So now not only is just Yahiko going to try and learn how to fight one-on-one against a group of many, but he's essentially taking something that Kenshin used during the war, and just kind of like having that information in your head, knowing that what you're about to do is an attack strategy that is used during a war, and knowing that it was something that was actually used just kind of makes you hype up a little bit. And I think it works with Yahiko, because by the end of it, he is ready to go and have his rematch. He has the information that he needs, he just needs to learn how to utilize it. And the final thing that we're going to talk about is the Kamiya Kashin Ryu, the way that Kenshin described it being Ketsujin-ken, the sword that gives life. In a more literal translation, it's supposed to mean the sword that animates, but it essentially comes down to what the Kamiya Kashin is, and what we've learned about the Kamiya Kashin right from the get-go of the manga. The way that Kenshin describes the Kamiya Kashin, it was the Ketsujin-ken, the sword that gives life, and we constantly hear this throughout the narrative. The whole philosophy of the Kamiya Kashin is that it is a sword that is going to protect people. It is going to change the way swords work, because right from the first act of Rurouni Kenshin, we learn from Kenshin's perspective, from Kenshin's own words, that swordsmanship is about killing. It is the art of taking life away from others. The opposite of the Ketsujin-ken is Setsunin To, which is the sword that takes life. And so what essentially is these two philosophies with swordsmanship. The Setsunin To is the art of using the sword to take life away, and the Ketsujin-ken is taking this philosophy and trying to turn it around so that it protects people, and it's become a Zen Buddhism philosophy from the 1600s. It is taking these two clashing ideologies when it comes to swordsmanship and trying to make them, I guess, become one, is trying to overwhelm the other. And so from before the 1600s, between Edo and so, the Zen Buddhism actually took the Ketsujin-ken, the art of the sword that animates, and kind of essentially elevated it so that for the very philosophy that we're studying here in Rurouni Kenshin, so that life may live on its own. a sword that protects people. And so the Setsunin to has become underneath it. It is out of the two opposites. This one has been elevated, and this one has been, I guess, brought down. The page where I read it, I'll go ahead and link in the description so that you guys can check it out and maybe understand it a little bit more than I'm able to explain it myself. But I just thought that that was interesting, that we're actually getting these names in the manga in the English version so that we can actually look them up and kind of talk about them. But what I really like about this though is Kenshin just telling Yahiko that you really need to take your responsibility as a swordsman seriously. Hold this conviction within yourself so that you never forget that when you are fighting, you are not just fighting for yourself the way one who practice Setsunin-to might do. You are practicing Ketsujin-ken for the sake of yourself and for those you are trying to protect. And I think that that's powerful stuff for one swordsman to be implementing into another swordsman. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Act 32 of Rurouni Kenshin and Act 32 of the Wandering Samurai Study. If you like this act and you want to see more, then consider subscribing to the channel, because we do one video a week on Rurouni Kenshin, and I try to fill in the void with other videos from time to time. Give this video a thumbs up and comment down below, what did you guys think of this philosophy? What did you think of this little story arc that we're studying, that it's not just kind of fluff between the previous act and the next one? We're getting a little bit more a character shaping up between Yahiko. He's getting a little bit fleshed out is what I'm trying to say. What do you guys think of this Ketsujin-ken and Setsunin-to, these two philosophies that are kind of at clash with each other? I'll see you guys in the comments and next time. Bye, ciao.